Welcome to Anecdotes for Success with Matt and Paul. Storytelling is an art form, emphasizing the value and learning that is created through personal experience. Our purpose is to share these stories and experiences with the listener. Everyone has a powerful testimony. Let's use them to level up to our best life with truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective.
Hi, everyone. We have Tim Shurr on today. Matt and I finally did it correctly before we started asking Tim a lot of questions and learning all about him and what he does. We said stop and we started recording. So, Tim, welcome to Anecdotes to Success.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being on the show with you today. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
It's an amazing time. Matt and I always say how we can meet people that we probably never would have met without technology and the internet. Not to say couldn't have been in a coffee shop together or something, but the odds of that happening are slim to none. So we're always blessed when we have such wonderful guests on. So why don't you start off just talking a little about how you got here? And I know the conversation will take off from there.
Sure. So, I grew up with a lot of anxiety, worries, fears, pressures, always chasing approval, trying to prove that I was good enough, trying to figure out how to have the courage to do difficult things and advance my life. And I just kept getting stuck. I wasn't sure what to do. I had a counselor tell me one time that I had generalized anxiety disorder. And I'm like, well, how do I get generalized confidence in order? And he didn't really know. And so I went to school for psychology, was working on my degrees, and had a chance encounter with a hypnotist who came as a guest speaker to one of my psychology classes. And he asked for a volunteer, and I thought, I'll cluck like a chicken. And so I raised my hand, and 5 minutes later, I felt this sense of peace that I never experienced before. I'm like, what is going on here? And he showed me how you can unlock the power of your subconscious mind. I'm like, what is that? He says, it's like there's two parts of your brain. You got your conscious analytical mind, and then you got your emotional mind that really runs the show. And so I learned how to use hypnotherapy, and that became like my main tool, that and neurolinguistic programming and anything that would help people to overcome anxiety, post-traumatic stress, trauma. That was what I was really interested in. And it just unlocked this door for what's possible. And I got really excited about figuring out what happens when you get stuck. What happens when you have an awesome mindset? What happens when you're very confident, but you still feel blocked? When you still feel like there's things in your life that you can't get through in your marriage or with your kids or with a bad habit you can't seem to overcome, or you've made millions of dollars, but you still experience imposter syndrome, right? Or you're just constantly led by pressure instead of a sense of peace, even though on paper you feel like you won, but inside it doesn't feel that way. What do you do then? Right. And so I got really excited about helping people to get unstuck. So over the years, I became what I call a mind architect, because architects design inevitable outcomes. And when we work together, that's exactly what's going to happen. And so I've been doing this for 37 years now. I've facilitated over 16,000 sessions and worked with people from all over the world. And I'm excited to share the best secrets and what I've learned from all of that with you right now.
Tim, that's fascinating. Gosh, I first of all, are you talking to everyone or talking to me when you start going through this? I'm sure a lot of people can relate.
Yeah.
One of my initial questions based on what you said is, you talked about people who feel very driven, right? And there's an anxiety that drives, or the drive creates the anxiety. I don't know. You would know better than I would, but there's the anxiousness to perform, to do, to accomplish. Certainly describes me, and I'm sure many others. What is the downside of I'm not saying you're removing that. You haven't said whether you are or not, but I'm putting words in your mouth a little bit here. But let's say you're able to take that away from someone, me, or now am I just so at peace, Tim, that all of a sudden I'm not accomplishing things anymore, right? That drive is gone.
Mhm.
Help me understand why I would want to do that if I still wanted to achieve and accomplish and all those kinds of things, because that's the first thing that popped in my head. So please share.
Yes. Yeah. It's a brilliant and very important question, Matt, because a lot of people that I've worked with, CEOs of $1 billion company, hungry entrepreneurs that have created high levels of success, but they're a creator, they're a visionary, they're always going to want to create. And so what they say is, are you going to mess with my mojo? Are you going to
Yeah.
take away my drive? Because that's what made me who I am. I don't want to lose that. I don't want you getting in my head, messing that up. I'm like, no, we're going to we're going to accentuate that. We're going to optimize that, right? You're not still walking around with an iPhone 1, are you? Right? You're using an iPhone 17, but a lot of us are still walking around with the same MS-DOS patterns that we were born with, and we don't realize it. So you don't have an issue with mindset. I mean, you're rock solid. A lot of people are trying to be you, right? And so that's their dream of trying to get to where you are. So that's not what it is. What I focus on is what's going on underneath it, underneath the mindset. And what most high achievers have is what I call achiever syndrome. And that's where you have this pressure inside that no matter how much you get or how much you accomplish, it feels like it's some way it's not enough. Or you meet someone else who's done more than you, and then you're like, ugh. Or you have this feeling inside that if I take my foot off the gas, things are going to fall apart. I could lose it all. I could get blindsided, or I'm going to miss opportunities. And so you're exactly right. We're being driven still by that anxiety. So where's that anxiety come from? It comes from beliefs that we picked up as kids that we didn't even know we picked up. From all the experiences we go through, we know that life can be beautiful and it can also beat you up sometimes. And so these our brain forms these ideas without our permission about what those situations mean. And a lot of times we get this idea that we're not enough or we're not safe. And so because of that, we're still trying to prove ourselves. We're still trying to show that we're going to be okay no matter what. And we keep thinking that there's this going to be this magic number in our bank account that when we have that, we're finally going to be okay. And it's a weird thing that happens in your mind when you hit that number, but you still don't feel that way that you thought you were gonna, because your problems didn't go away. You have a bigger house, you have a nicer car, you can pay your bills, but you're still fighting with your wife, you're still struggling with the kids, you still got the pressure of all the responsibility. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. And so what I do is I go in there and I just remove some mental malware, right? You're a high performing race car, but what if there's a parking brake that was accidentally set and you didn't know it and we release the brake? That doesn't slow the car down. It just makes it run more efficiently and effectively so that you're being driven with peace instead of pressure.
Wow, that's a good analogy and a good answer because you probably get the sense from the way I'm nodding my head that everything you're saying is resonating with me. I don't know if I
Yeah.
don't know if I should be ashamed of myself or what. I'm kidding,
No, you
of
should be
course.
proud of yourself
I,
that you're having the courage to say it. It takes a lot of courage to admit it, and a lot of high performers don't. We play our cards close to the
yeah,
chest because we feel like people are always coming at us or we have an image, or a lot of guys that are super achievers, they feel like any sign of vulnerability is weakness and they
yeah,
can't have it because if I'm weak, that means I'm a pile of, and I'm
yeah.
like,
I'm a
whoa, that's
target.
not weakness. Yeah, that's not weakness. That's strength. You just got some limiting beliefs around it. And what would happen if we freed that? Because remember, it's not just you that you're affecting when you have that kind of pressure. It's the people around you as well, your
Mhm.
family, your employees, your colleagues. And sometimes you're like, I'm fine. I'm like, yeah, but the people around you aren't.
Mm. So go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
No,
I saw
no,
you.
go ahead, because I have a feeling it'll be similar.
So 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 now what's the process? Now you've identified a subject and then not only what would you do when you work with them, but let's just say it's just the average person. They're not going to have the privilege to talk to you directly. What where do they go from here? They've they've
Yeah.
they've realized that what you're saying is them. Now what?
Yes. So Uh, well, first of all my materials you can get, and get these tools, access to these tools. I didn't price it so high that only the rich and famous can access it. So you get my book for like $15 on Amazon, right?
Beautiful.
So, and I put the actual strategies that I use in there. So it's not a book on what you should do. It's a book that retrains your brain while you're reading it. So it's creating the experiences while you're reading it, and retraining your brain, and optimizing the mental operating system software inside of you. However, I'm going to give you the exact answer. First, I'll share what I would do, and then I can give you some tools that people that are watching and listening right now can start to use immediately to start to feel more peace today. So, as far as what we do, you don't have to go to therapy for months or years. In fact, busy entrepreneurs, they don't have time for that, right? They want to get. I always am told, I want results right now, and I want it with an easy button. And so I had to figure out how to do that. And so here's the easy button, right? So I take you through a series of experiences, usually 6 to 8 experiences is all it takes, and you'll start feeling better after the very first one. But we need some reps, just like going to the gym. You don't walk out once with muscles, right? You need some reps. But it's very laser focused. And in session one, what we do is we start to look for that limiting belief. And most people will go back to when they're like 7 years old, right? And so I was working with a guy one time, and uh, and he was making $3 million a year, and he was constantly stressed about money. And I'm like, how can you be stressed about money? And he said, because I just have this fear all the time that I'm going to lose it, right? Something's going to happen, and I'm going to be blindsided, and I just can't shake it. I know better, but I just can't shake it. And so he hired me, and I took him through this experience, and he went back to this time when he was 7 years old. He didn't even remember the memory, but he went back to when he was 7 years old, and he remembered that his dad was working with the company and was doing a lot for this company and really helping the company, but his dad didn't understand contracts. And so there was a attorney in there that decided to create some contracts that basically took his dad's IP and then kicked him out of the company. And so his dad lost everything, right? And he saw his dad go from confident and taking over the world to losing everything. But he didn't understand it because he was 7. All he did was he saw his dad freaking out about money and then just being totally depressed, right? And so, of course, in his mind, that made him feel like there was something wrong with him. Kids always think it's their fault for some reason, because when you're a child, the whole world revolves around you, right? And so when your parents are having a hard time, if your parents get divorced, it's got to be because of me. It's my fault. I'm not good enough for them to stay together. Our brain makes up these crazy ideas when we're kids. Most of them are false. We just don't know it. And because our brain's making up these ideas without our permission and without us knowing it, it just gets locked in there, and then it starts ruling our lives, our whole entire lives. That's why we call them, hidden constraints or bottlenecks or blind spots, right? Unconscious bias, right? That's all it is. It's hidden beliefs. And so we reframe that. We helped him to upgrade that belief to a sense of peace, a feeling of joy, a sense of security that if he lost everything, he'd just go build it back up because he has all the wisdom. He's a wisdom collector. He'd just go build it up again, right? And he's safe regardless of money, right? We don't want to turn money into our idol, right? That's the golden god. We want to be careful of that. It's just a tool. It's a tool that you can use, right? Your safety comes from inside of you, not from your external environment. If it's your external environment, you'll always be chasing, and you'll always be stressed, and you'll always feel like it's not enough or you're not enough. So when you build the internal inside of you, which you guys know, and that's what you teach, then you're going to feel secure regardless of what's going on. It doesn't matter what shows up. What matters is how you show up. Doesn't matter what happens to you. All that matters is what you bring to the situation. So we upgraded that belief, and we freed him from so much of that pressure he was walking around with.
Go ahead, Paul.
So you just made a statement a minute ago about the people that are always chasing, never relaxing, always stressed. How do you help them? Because I see that all the time with people.
Yeah, same thing. It's, what are you chasing? And really, it's a feeling. And where's that feeling being driven from? It's being driven from a belief. So what would you have? So here's a 2-question process that you can use to start finding beliefs and blind spots and then turn it around. Question 1, what would you have to believe to feel this way or think this way or behave this way? And you got to keep asking yourself till you get to the core of it, right? The real root of it. So what would you have to believe to think that you are always having to chase? So let me just ask you that. We'll just play real quick. So Paul, if you're always chasing for something, what would you have to believe in order to feel like you always have to keep chasing?
I would think that A, I never have enough. B, uh, I need to keep moving. I want to, maybe I care what other people think.
Cut out there that last second, Paul.
Oh, maybe I care what other people think. Always trying to impress. I would think that's what will be going through people's minds.
Yeah. So, and if you didn't have enough and you didn't impress, what would that mean? What would happen?
Well, I mean, what would it mean to the person, or what would really happen?
Either.
Uh, I mean, what would really happen? You're still going to be the same you, and
Hmm.
you, like you said earlier, you could reset and start over, and that might even be more fun to have a new journey. What
Yeah.
you think would happen is you. I think the losing and the loss seems to be a common theme. People
Yes.
people think they're losing something when at the end of the day, I mean, you're still you. I think I'm fine.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You're doing a great job. So, because you're trying to have this separation between what's going on inside of you and then what other people might think. And uh, so let's break this down a little bit, right? So there's two themes. One, I might run out. There's never enough. And that's a very common one. I'm going to run out. I'm going to run out of money. I'm going to run out of time. I'm going to run out of opportunities. And that's when we get pressured. That's when we feel overwhelmed. That's when we get burned out sometimes, right? Because now we're not chasing just for the growth of it. We feel like we're just constantly under the gun, right? So, a quick reframe that I use for me, because I remember I had more money than I ever had before. I'm sitting there in the big pool watching my kids play in the fountains and stuff like that, and I almost had a panic attack. Something hit me out of nowhere that I could lose it, right? And so I had more money than I ever had, and I grew up pretty broke, and I had all this money, and I would just spend it all, and I felt like I was broke at a higher level, and then I felt like I had to start all over again, and I was doing all this in my head, like torturing myself, and it's not like I was doing it on purpose, and I had a great mindset. It's just that I still had those beliefs, and so the belief underneath that the other thing that you said, what I think is even more important. Well, first, let me give the reframe, right? So I'm not running out, I'm running up, right? Just a little micro shift. I'm not running out, I'm running up, right? Like you said, what would really happen is that you would just pivot and grow, and then it could lead to something even more fun. That's a playing to win attitude that you have cultivated in life. Most people don't have that, right? So that's a great example. But the other thing that you said that was even more revealing is that what would other people think? Right? And that's the real button that pushes us, right? What would they think? And why do you care? And why does it matter? Right? Because we start worrying about how others are going to view us and judge us because of how we are viewing and judging ourselves. And a lot of times, the biggest disease we have on the planet is insecurity, this fear of not being good enough. That's the deepest fear that people have. If you boil it all down, it's I'm not good enough. And because I'm not enough, I won't be loved. So how do I get love? Well, I become the super achiever. I become the one everybody relies on. I become the hero, the provider. I become the jokester. Or, I become the really nice person, or I become the one that helps everybody, or I become the one who's always getting in trouble. I become the outlaw, right? We're going to find a way to meet those needs and get that love one way or another. And so if you can go from chasing to having, right? You don't chase what you want, you attract it. And that means you've got to upgrade those beliefs so that I'm already enough. So that's where the second question is, what would you rather believe instead? I'd rather believe that I'm already safe, that I'm already enough, that I've already won. Everything else is a bonus round. And my goal isn't just to make more money. My goal is to squeeze the most amount of joy that I possibly can out of every day.
It's amazing, and I get thinking in my head my own experiences. I actually learned something similar from my own daughters. They grew up playing softball and played in college, and they coach and teach now. And my younger daughter told me once, when something didn't go her way, she's like, I've learned every time something doesn't go my way, or any time there's some sort of loss or adversity, it just opens up the door for something great to happen. And that's
That's
freed me up
amazing.
with anything I do, jobs, opening a business. Like, what's the worst can happen? You learn from it, move on. Feel like that's
Yeah.
a similar shift. Like, you just have to realize it, it's all part of the process, right?
It's a learnable skill. It's not a personality trait. It's a learnable skill. It's like a muscle. Most people, that muscle's flabby. We got to learn how to strengthen it by, listening to shows like this. So everybody that's watching and listening, make sure you subscribe, you share it with your friends, you give it 5 stars, because this is how you learn. Because you're not going to learn this in school. They don't really teach this in church, and your parents probably don't know it. And so where are you supposed to learn it? So that's why, you go to Paul and Matt for this. So
Well,
your daughter was brilliant what she said. And that's what I call playing to win strategy, right? That's a playing to win strategy. Most people are playing not to lose. How do I
mm,
not get hurt? How do I not get rejected? How do I not make the wrong decision? I mean, Matt, in business, the way that you've run your business, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but you go fast and you go hard and you just look at it. It's not failure, it's feedback. And the more feedback you have, the better decisions you can make moving forward. But most people don't have that. Most people are afraid that they're going to make those mistakes and then they're going to look stupid. And then what are people going to think of me? And so they hold back.
Yeah, most people are paralyzed by and it's that fear and obviously comes from the places you're referring to. I'm constantly getting asked from by people, um, smart people, how to do this or how to do that or can I and I sit there and I marvel because I go, I'm as average as they come. Why like you have all the intelligence and skill and know-how to make your mark and do the things you want to do, but the paralysis is it's what it stands out to me. It's this the fear and and you're right, the fear of judgment and certainly failure, but it goes deeper, right, to that what are people going to think? And it's funny, I and I'm not immune to this by any means, but I think I'm slightly different from most people because I've always said, and I say this when I speak in Paul's classes or many other engagements I do, I would say what one of I have maybe two superpowers, and they kind of come from the same thing. It's I've never cared what anyone thought about me, and I think Tim that comes from the fact that my parents were so wonderful. They always made me feel safe, right? They always, no matter what I did, as long as I mean, I couldn't go kick the dog and they'd be okay with it, but I could always
Right.
come back to a hey, you tried, you did your, as long as you did your best and you tried, we're always here to love you. We always love you. We
Mhm.
always be loved. And that is a superpower because then you can go
Mhm.
out there and try things and do things. And when you have that failure and the shame that should wash over you for most people doesn't wash over me. I just
Mhm.
never felt that way. So that's always just
Mhm.
allowed me to do and try. And when I inevitably fall flat on my face, pick myself up and dust myself off and keep going. And I've just realized over time that most people don't think that way and feel that way. And that just it's paralysis for them. And it's sad. It's very sad for me to see.
The cure is self love,
So
which
what
in corporate America
how does
might
one
sound
do
too
how does one
soft.
do that?
That's the next question I hear every single time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just start to do it like anything else. Like, how do you get stronger? Pick up a weight,
Mm.
right? How do you start to do this? Well, first you got to have the awareness of this, and which is happening right now for some people, right? They're hearing that, then you got to realize that's an option, right? Well, I didn't have parents that love me. Well, you're the way you are right now because you internalized it and you're loving yourself, not because your parents loved you, but because you took that style and now you're loving yourself. So when things go wrong, you encourage yourself. You tell yourself it's going to be okay. You help yourself to be more supportive, like what Paul said. I'm going to look at this opportunity as a door for another, way to win, for a growth. It's just a growth opportunity for me, and then that allows them to keep moving forward. So for anybody else, you just start uh, telling yourself, you know what, I'm going to love myself no matter what, and I'm going to start accepting myself no matter what. And that little boy inside of me, I'm probably supportive and encouraging for other people. I'm going to start being that way for myself. And if your first thought after that is, well, I'm just lying to myself, I don't really feel that way. Well, that's where you got to practice. So that's the longer way of doing it. The shorter way is you just work with a mind architect who can get in there and upgrade those beliefs for you on the spot. Right. So that's where you got my One Belief Away book, or our courses and stuff like that, so that you can have that experience, or our coaches, so that you can have that experience faster. Our job is to collapse time frames. You can do it the slower way, or you can do it the faster way, but this is the path. I always tell people your biggest breakthroughs are hiding in the places you don't want to go. So if this is where you're resisting, this is where your next breakthrough is.
What's your if you're working directly with someone, what's your success rate?
About 95%.
Okay. And
Yeah.
that 5% ish that whatever success means, is there a common theme there? Is there, what's the blockage?
They don't show up.
Ah,
That's
okay.
the common blockage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they don't show up for the next session, or I'm calling or emailing. And it's surprising because people, pay me thousands of dollars and not show up. And so I wouldn't do that,
No,
but some
either.
people do. And I think that their heart's either not in it, something changes inside of them. Someone was trying to make them do this and they didn't really want to,
Mm,
or they find that they're feeling like it's a struggle and it's a little bit harder and they feel embarrassed, or they don't want to tell me that it's not going well. And so they disappear, which I try to set the tone right in the beginning that I don't care about that. It's just feedback, and we're going to do whatever we need to do to make sure uh, that we get them to where they need to be. Right. So, but that's really what happens. It's just people don't show up. If you keep showing up, we will find a way. The only time that I've worked with somebody where I just didn't know what else to do. The only situation where that really ever happens is a couple of times where I've worked with people that had anorexia. And that's not a psychological issue, that's a brain wiring issue.
mm.
And so, there's just a handful of times where I work with some women who had that. People that had bulimia. I freed so many 16-year-old girls who were throwing up in jars, and women that were 35 that were still doing it from bulimia and eating disorders like that. It's like
Wow.
this is like magic. Everybody should be using this tool. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing these shows all the time. I help a lot of business people make money and feel peace, but I also teach a lot of therapists and other people how to create, amazing breakthroughs with clients who they feel like they're stuck.
This 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 is going to be great to bring back to my students. I mean, real quick, I recruit kids from 8 different high schools. They're all high achievers, honor students. We have class on a college campus. We drive anywhere we want to go. And the point is,
Mm,
everybody's like, oh, you're so lucky you have all these high achieving students. No, they're just really good at hiding everything wrong, too. The pressure of college and debt, and I don't know what I want to do, and I'm supposed to know. And then you bring in
mhm.
social media and all the comparisons, and they're people pleasers with their teachers and their parents. And this has been resonating really well. I mean, I think we do a good job helping them and talking about this stuff, but most schools don't talk about this stuff. Like you said, schools, churches, parents, and
Yeah.
this episode could kickstart it for anybody. Uh, we got to make sure at the end we talk more about the book you've been mentioning, and make sure we'll put it in the bio here. But this stuff's amazing. I think, like you said, any age could use it.
Yeah, it's next level from what people are doing. Like school counselors don't know how to do this, and so they're going to listen. They're going to be supportive. But if you could get in there and start upgrading some beliefs, take some of that pressure off, and then a lot of times for the kids, it's not just it's the kids, it's their parents. Their parents are the ones that are driving them because they think this is what you need to do to get ahead, and so there's constant pressure from the parents as well. And so we grow up even with a 4.0 feeling like we're still not good enough and we have to prove ourselves. We got to prove ourselves to the school. We got to prove ourselves to the college. We got to prove ourselves to the employer. And then what happens if it doesn't work out? Then it's learned helplessness. Hey, I sacrificed myself. I didn't hang out with friends. All I did was study and get these grades. And then I didn't get the payoff that everybody promised.
Mm.
Right. So then what do you do? And then a lot of kids go the opposite direction and they don't want to do anything. They just want to drop out, they're tired of, and then they start, it's a conspiracy, man.
Well,
They go down the rabbit hole.
I've learned too many people think what they do is their identity, right? And that, like,
Yes,
it's not what you
yes,
do. That's who you are it should be the vehicle and everything behind what you do. But oh, I'm this, I'm a teacher, I'm a softball player, I'm a businessman. No, that's just what you do. And I think
yeah,
when you don't get the results you want, right, that's when it all starts crumbling on you.
yeah, yeah. It's a real gift what you're doing, because to have someone actually talk about this stuff and say, it's like, Matt, when I'm talking about the pressure that you're under, and you're like, man, I feel like you're talking directly to me. Well, that's because I've talked to so many guys in your situation, right? So many men and women as well.
Sure.
And we just are just feeling that pressure. And you don't have to be the owner. You could be a sales manager, and you're
Sure.
constantly feeling that pressure. I mean, it
Yeah.
just, middle management is always stressed out. And so,
Yeah.
uh, but to be able to just have this conversation and call it out, and have people say, wow, this is exactly what I'm going through,
Yeah.
because it's what we're all going through. We just don't want anybody to know, and somehow we think it's just me. I'm the only one going through this, and I don't want anybody to know, because everybody else has this perfect life, and no, there is no such thing as a perfect life, and everybody's going through something.
Yeah. So what made you decide? Let's get in the book a little bit. What made you decide to write the book, and what was what's that process like?
So I wrote my first book around 1997. I found I was saying the same things over and over, and I just was lazy, I guess, because I didn't want to keep saying the same things. I just wanted to hand them a book and say, read this. So I just wrote it all down, on my Windows 95, and typed it out. And
Wow.
and so, yeah, I mean, I remember being at one of the I think it was Office Max or something, with their cutter, and I was putting the books together. I bought a kit and was gluing the books together myself. I didn't have a publisher. It was crazy. But I wanted to
That's
get those.
great though. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I got that first one that I made that was falling apart with the glue and everything sitting on my shelf, just as a
Good for you.
reminder.
Good for you.
Yeah. So what I found is, like, every 5 years I would have new wisdom, because I was
Mhm.
always pushing myself and hiring coaches. The biggest breakthrough for me, a quantum leap for me, was the discovery of hiring a business coach, right? Or some kind of coach. It was almost always business coaches, because I got more learning from them than I did the therapy coaches, the therapists,
Okay.
right? So, because these guys that I was hiring, they were in the trenches, and they
Yeah.
were talking about the issues I was dealing with. And
Yeah.
so, it made me want to be a business coach or an executive, consultant and stuff like that. So, every 5 years I'd gain new wisdom, and I put it in another book. And then, so the One Belief Away book is my seventh, and I've got three more here that are written. I just got to get them out into the world. One is called Faithful, and it's a set of prayers for business people, right?
Mm.
So when we feel like we can't do it on our own, well, there's someone a little bit bigger and better that we can rely and lean on. And so I wrote prayers that business owners can use, every day, to kind of set the tone
Oh
and
wow.
rely on God's strength instead of just our own. So, and then a couple more in the making. But One Belief Away, I think, is one of my best books, because the sessions that are creating tremendous breakthroughs, I just put them in the book, right? I just gave it away. 37 years for $15. You could get the ebook for $1 when we launched it, right? That's how books are, right? But
Yeah.
it's you literally just read the experiences, and you start having these breakthroughs and transformations. And I think that's the best kind of book. It's also on Audible, so you can listen to the audiobook, because most people, are listening and driving.
Yep.
Me,
You shouldn't
it's
listen to
me.
those experiences when you're driving. Yeah, that's anybody that's busy, right? In demand. I don't like the word busy. We're in demand, right? So
I
yeah,
like
so you
that.
can listen to that and go through those experiences. It's incredibly impactful. And then, of course, there were some chapters at the end that I feel like I have a lot of life experience, but I wanted a little bit more, and I had questions that I didn't know how to answer. And my friend Joe Vitale, who was in the movie The Secret, and world famous speaker and author, and he's about 20 years older than me. And I said, Joe, I got some questions and I think that you'd be able to answer them. So could you contribute the last few chapters of this book? And he said, yes. And so I wrote this one with Joe Vitale, and yeah, it's really good. So the only one that's going to be better than that book is the next one.
As we wind down a little, so all right, you get in there, you upgrade stuff, you get rid of the malware.
Yeah.
Is there an easy maintenance that goes along with it, or is that the battle? Always staying in the right place?
That's a good question. So there's two parts of this. There's your beliefs, and then there's your mindset, right? That's how you talk to yourself. And so we upgrade the beliefs, and once you do that, it's upgraded. So when you go from I'm not enough to I'm more than enough, I'm not loved to I am loved, I'm loved by me, I'm loved by God, I'm loved by my family. When you shift into that, it's shifted. You'd have to go through something pretty tumultuous to shift back to that. All right. So then it's just keeping your hands on the steering wheel. If you want to arrive safely at your destination. And so I'm giving tools and strategies, what I call micro shifts. I do this keynote called One Shift Away. You're just one shift away from a next breakthrough, a next, avoiding a problem, improving communication, because the biggest problems companies have are these limiting beliefs we don't know about, and then it breaks down communication. And so if you can upgrade beliefs, which nobody's doing in leadership trainings, John Maxwell doesn't know how to upgrade beliefs, right? So he's the master at the leadership programs. And I've, worked with like Ken Blanchard and Brian Tracy and Bob Proctor and Les Brown. So I've worked with the greats. In fact, my new book coming up is called Timeless Wisdom, and it has all those guys in it, but anyway, so when you upgrade those beliefs, it upgrades communication in ways that are kind of extraordinary, and it's just little shifts. I think that we have too much information. So when you go to a leadership program and you've got the 10 principles, the 8 principles, it's too many. What's one little shift I can do right now? So one little shift you can do is breathe differently. Instead of breathing through your mouth or holding your breath, breathe through your nose. Right? I call it power breathing. So you start to feel stressed, you start to speed up, you start to get a little too amped, right? Or a little overwhelmed. You got too much coming at you. Pause and breathe through your nose. If you want to make it work even better, look up. When you look up, people are always talking about, I got a noisy mind, I can't turn my brain off, right? Sitting here at 2 a.m. and my brain's going. The trick for that is you look up. When you look up, it quiets the voice in your head. So in fact, it's very challenging to feel stressed when you're staring up at the ground. So do that with your kids, Paul. Say, I want you to look up at the sky and try to get stressed about something. Now, kids are creative, so they'll try to do it.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But a lot of times if you look up, you can think about it, but you can't feel it. It's like there's a disconnect. You can't quite feel it. Okay.
Interesting.
So yeah. So you look up and you breathe through your nose. When you breathe in through your nose, down to your belly, you take twice as long to exhale. And you do that 5 times in a row. Takes about a minute. It activates your relaxation response inside. It literally turns on the part of you that's responsible for calm. Right? So whenever you get stressed, you always get calm afterwards. You slow down, you start yawning. That's your relaxation response. Well, you can activate that anytime you want with power breathing, right? So you look up and you power breathe. What do you do after that? Ask a better question. The quality of our life is being determined all the time by the quality of our beliefs and the quality of the questions we walk around asking ourselves all day long. And most people are asking lousy questions. What if it goes wrong? What if it doesn't work out? Whose fault is this? Why does this keep happening? What's wrong with me? Why do I always fail? Why this? Why me? Why now? Your brain works like a GPS. You tell it where to go and it starts to take you there. People are not using their inner GPS correctly. They're telling it where they don't want to go. I don't want to go to the post office. I don't want to go to the grocery store. I don't want to go to the movies. Okay, getting directions to the movies. So when you focus on what you don't want, your brain's going to keep taking you there. I'm trying to lose weight. And I keep telling myself, don't eat the cookies. Don't eat the cookies. All your brain hears is eat the cookies. And then you do. So we've got to flip that. We got to ask power questions. Power questions come from hope, right? And faith. So, well, what do I want to have happen? How do I want things to go? How do I want to feel right now? What's one way I could feel that way that would leave me feeling proud of myself afterwards? What resources do I have? Who can I lean on for support? What can I learn about this? Like with your daughter, Paul, how can I look at this as this setback as a setup for a comeback? Right? How can I make this fun? I got to do taxes. That's no fun. Well, how can I make it fun? Maybe I'll put some classical music on. Maybe I'll light a scented candle. Maybe I'm going to go tell myself I'm going to take the time and go watch a movie, after I get this done, right? Set up a little reward for yourself. So when you start asking those kinds of questions, you start to physically feel stronger, and then you start to have a little more pleasure, and then pleasure will move you forward, and pain will always shut you down. So look up, take a power breath, then ask a power question, and then make a bold move.
It's amazing.
That's our
It's
masterclass for today.
well,
See you next
yeah,
time.
yeah. I mean,
That was great. Yeah.
I think it's a great way to end it. I mean, Matt and I aren't going anywhere. We'd love to have you back on after hearing
Sure.
all this and have part 2 or 3, whenever, because
Mhm.
there's so much more. But for now, why don't you tell all the listeners where they can find you and where they can get your book?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm on all the social media, and I'm very accessible, right? So I don't have a bunch of gatekeepers around. You can get right to me. I'm in demand, right? So there's a lot of people coming on, but I will reach out to you and call back or send an email, or
Yes.
because I respond to that, because when I started out, the fancy people, the wealthy people, or the people that were really successful, they just didn't pay attention to me, and I always felt rejected, or like I wasn't good enough. Now that was my stuff. They probably just didn't even know that I had this whole story going on in my head.
Right.
Okay. But I do remember how that made me feel. And so, I make sure that I create space for somebody if they need to talk to me. So you can always reach out. I got 2 different websites. One's being redone, but timshurr.com. So that's my corporate speaking or my company training site. And then I do have Indie Hypnosis, INDY, indiehypnosis.com, because I was a hypnotist and a celebrity hypnotist out in Los Angeles for a number of years. And so I still have that practice with our hypnotists and coaches. So if you need this help, then you can go to indiehypnosis.com, schedule a free consultation, and we'll figure out a plan. We'll find that hidden constraint, and we'll start getting you results right away.
Tim, this was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, very much
Yeah, it was really
appreciate your
fun.
time.
It's
Yeah, I
not always
appreciate yours too.
it's not always you leave Matt speechless at the end of a podcast. So
That was a great I thought we were in the room. It was just me and Tim together. I was just
yeah. All right. Hey, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yes, it was a pleasure. Everybody listening, I hope that you apply this now, because you're just one belief away from your next big breakthrough. So thanks, gentlemen. I look forward to our next conversation.
All right. Bye.